coming from Honduras, I can tell you, 99% of people in Honduras wish they could have Nayib as president in Honduras. I've seen the economical progress in this country in the last 5 years. Salvador is a way different country, and for the good, not for the bad.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Bitcoin was a good move. It's definitely made this area grow a lot. Not only this area, in general.
We are live here from Bitcoin Beach with our friend Will, who is going to tell us how not to buy a lemon in El Salvador. Buying vehicles here, it's been one of my biggest challenges. I've gone through a lot of different vehicles and I've learned a lot along the way, but I thought it'd be better to bring somebody else in that could give us some pointers and tell us kind of the unique things about the Salvadoran car market. And so, Will, thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to give you some very good info over here.
So you're not originally from El Salvador, right?
No, I'm originally from Honduras.
Okay.
I moved to El Salvador like about 4 years ago. I also lived in the States twice. I used to play volleyball over there.
Yeah, you're like, what, like 7'8" or something there? You're towering over there.
No, I'm 6'7". I'm 6'7", but that's tall enough to make it to some basketball teams and also volleyball teams.
It seems like when I go to Honduras, the people there are taller than they are in El Salvador. Is that
actually, yeah?
Is that true, or is that just
true.
a weird coincidence for the people I've interacted with?
No, definitely. We're about, let's say, 10 to 15% taller than El Salvador. However, I'm like way out of the specs,
Do you know why that is? Is that?
Yeah, my dad.
No, I mean just in general in Honduras. Like why?
I
just
guess
the heritage of the people, the Spanish that came there first, or what?
Well, hey, listen, Spanish people are not like, the most tall in the world, one thing. And another one, the mix of races for, the native races over here, they were like really small. Mayan, they were like really small. So I guess that's why, but.
So you were in the U.S. for a while, and I put out something on the Facebook expat group here of, hey, we need somebody who understands the car market because it is a very hard market to navigate. And you responded to that, and you kind of said the different things. You've worked in the car industry in the U.S. You've done racing. So give us kind of a lowdown of your. Sounds like cars are more than.
Yeah,
just a side thing for you. It's kind of your life.
Yeah, sometimes it's an issue too. It's like like a drug for me. But thing is, I actually have a major in finance, and I quit it from the bank. I used to work at Citibank, and
in the U.S.
No, in Honduras.
In Honduras. Okay.
So I opened a car shop. That was after the first time I went to live to the U.S. I opened a car shop and I had it for about 8 years. I had to learn a lot because
in Honduras,
because I wasn't, a mechanic by profession. So I learned a lot over there. Then I went to
was it like repairs, or were you selling vehicles, or what type of car shop was it?
It was a repair, like a mechanic, and also body shop.
Okay.
So the thing is, since I like so much, owning vehicles. So I would, buy a vehicle and then sell it. And then when I was selling it, people will come to me like, hey, you know what? I don't have the money, but I can give you this vehicle and this money. I'm like, okay, I'll get the vehicle and I'll just try to resell it, And obviously there I started like having some issues and learning a lot, about the market. Then I went to live back in the States again. I work in a body shop as a shop manager. And then I work in a dealership. So I used to sell cars in the States a lot. Then I came back and I started living in El Salvador. So I could compare from first hand the difference on the whole car industry from a first world country and a third world country. And it's huge. Let me tell
And
you,
is there a lot of difference between Honduras and El Salvador, or is it pretty
the same thing?
Same thing. They're doing a lot of wrecked cars.
We're
there
neighbor,
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny because everybody that works like in Copart and IAAI, those are the actions, the more famous actions in the States. Everybody knows Mexicans, Guatemalans, from Honduras, and from El Salvador because we buy the majority of the vehicles that they can buy because they are not, supposedly repairable.
They're so damaged that it's not worth repairing in the U.S. I mean, so explain to the people that market, because I think people from the U.S. don't understand what a percentage of the market here is those type of vehicles. I don't even know what the percentages are. Maybe you do.
More than half. More than half,
okay.
Definitely. So this is the thing. Whenever you wreck a vehicle in the States, the vehicle either is fixable or not. And if the insurance company decides it's not worth it to fix it, then it enters to a couple of several categories. And some of those are you can still fix it. It's just going to be very expensive. And some of those are no, we don't allow you to fix it. So those cars that are not allowed to be fixed and to be driven back in the States, most of them come down to these countries. Not all.
There's brokers up there that are buying them.
Yeah,
and shipping
they're buying
them down
those
here.
vehicles. They bring it here. They fix it. But not all of them. There are also good importers that they actually import good vehicles. So the game is you need to check every single vehicle before buying it. Because there's no way on telling by first hand it's going to be a good option or not. Even those so-called de agencia lately.
And explain to people what de agencia means here.
Yeah, so since this trend about importing vehicles has been going for several years, so there's a myth, or not so much a myth, but there's this knowledge that vehicles that come from the States, they usually are involved in a big crash. So people tend to buy or want to buy cars de agencia. De agencia means there are vehicles that were bought new over here at the local dealership. So the idea behind this is if you buy a vehicle that was bought new locally, the odds are it hasn't been crashed, or at least not in a...
Or not as in bad of an accident.
Yeah, not a bad one. But that's what people think. Because all the vehicles that we drive over here, hey, we're humans too. We also crash. So what do you think happens to those vehicles that get crashed and they were bought from agencia? There are some shops that specialize on this, that they buy these vehicles from the local insurance companies, and they do exactly the same thing. But it's even worse because at least when you buy a vehicle that was imported from the States, you can pay a Carfax, and you can know
see the pictures,
what type of damage the vehicle had, and at least a part of the history of the vehicle. Over here, that doesn't exist. So a vehicle could be totally damaged. They fix it, and there's no way, not in a legal or in a formal way to know it wasn't an accident and how it looked before the repair. So that's why my advice is always get the agencia out of your head and just look at the vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's important or not. The first thing you need to ask yourself and try to figure out is, why is he selling the vehicle? He or she. Why are they selling the vehicle? This is the first question you need to do. Because over here, there are a lot of, I don't know if you heard the term, coyotes.
Coyotes, yeah.
I just learned it 2 years ago. I didn't understand the term. Coyotes, let's say, are people that flip cars. Thing is, I know I'm bouncing all around, so you can stop me at any point if you have a question. Thing is, in third world countries, the government is not strict with annual. Actually, we don't even have annual inspections for the vehicles. So, for example, in the States, every year you need to do an inspection, and they tell you, okay, this vehicle is road worthy. Over here, that doesn't happen. So it's like the snowball that keeps growing because we have a lot of owners that they don't really take care of the vehicles. So the vehicle just goes worse and worse every year, up to a point it's not longer, what would we say? It's just too much money to fix it, and so it's not worth it. So what they do, they sell it. So that's
I had one, like we had I think it was like a 2005 Chevy Avalanche. The transmission was going out. It wouldn't go out of like second gear. And so we sold it just for really cheap to somebody. I don't know, they gave us $2,000-$3,000 for it. I saw it listed a few days later for $8,000 as like
coyotes.
Perfect working condition.
They always say that. They always say that. That's my first advice.
Yeah.
First, ask yourself, because we can read body language and we can take some cues here and there. Why are they selling the vehicle? Why? Because if it is a car flipper or a coyote, how we call it here, odds are 80-85% of those vehicles are not a good option.
It seems like there's also a lot of people, they won't actually own the cars, but they'll tell you that they own them, but they're actually
those are the coyotes.
That's the same type thing.
Yeah,
okay.
Those are the coyotes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, over here, flippers, we also call people that they never own the car, but they get the car from somebody, and that person tells them, like, hey, help me sell it. Sometimes it's because they don't want to deal with whoever buys it, because they know
there's problems with it.
Something.
Yeah.
So they don't want to have to deal with the aftermath. Like, hey, this car broke 2 days later. So they give the car to somebody else. That's one thing. And the other one is sometimes people just don't have the time to sell it.
Yeah.
That's a honest way to do it. But what I'm trying to say is most of the vehicles that you're going to see on Marketplace or any other platform, they have heating issues. So you got to be careful. So first advice, know why they're selling the vehicle. Second advice, always pay for somebody to check the vehicle. And not only, look it around and put the scanner. No, you gotta take it to the lift, look underneath, check everything, suspension, brakes, whatever.
So do you recommend they do that with a mechanic, or take it to Gibson and have them do a full evaluation on it? What would you do?
Man, you put me in a hot spot there. Gibson. This is the thing.
So Gibson, for people that don't know, it's kind of like they'll do an evaluation on your car. Yeah. If you want to trade in a car for use, to buy a new one, they'll have you get evaluation first a lot of times.
I'm sure somebody's going to get mad at me, but I have experience with Gibson. I have taken multiple cars to check. And I even make, the test, like, okay, I know this car has this issue. I've taken to Gibson, and sometimes they don't find that issue. They overlook it sometimes. Also, I'm not saying it still happens, but it had happened. And that's why sometimes companies fire people.
They give them a little money.
Yeah,
give it a good report.
These coyotes, they know, they know the market. They know people that work here, that work there. And Gibson used to have monopolize the market of evaluations, but now I think there's a second one. Yeah, that's a good to start. But I would suggest, besides taking the car to Gibson, take it to a shop you trust, to a mechanic, have the car checked, and then take it to a body shop. Because a painter, a body worker, is gonna look different things that a mechanic won't look. You know what I mean? So always have like the two advices. That's what I would advise you to do. Okay. Always do that before buying a vehicle, because then you get surprises, and then you spend more money than you thought you were supposed to spend, and then you're like, okay, I got scammed, and then you have to sell the car for half the price because it has a lot of issues.
Well, I had that happen. We bought one that was the Agencia. I thought, okay, we're avoiding all those problems, and then I took it to the dealership for service, and I'm like, no, this has been in a wreck before. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, the guy who owned it before and we had all kinds of issues. I think I paid $15,000 for it, and I traded in like for $10,000 like a week later because it was so dangerous. I didn't want to drive it anymore. So it was, definitely worth it to spend the extra time and money.
Hey, look, if you buy a vehicle from someone that he's truly just upgrading the vehicle to a really newer one, that's like a green flag, A red flag for me is always like ganga. That's a red flag. Ganga,
which means like flag. Bargain, or you're going to win with this.
Yeah.
Like it's opportunity.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Another red flag is, man. Some people are gonna hate me. If you, for instance, if you go into marketplace, you see a vehicle, and you click on the seller, and you see that guy has like 20 listings. For me, that's a red flag.
Then it's a coyote.
Yeah, for me, 9 out of 10, he's a coyote.
Yeah.
Why? Because sometimes you can have like honest sellers, car sellers, but those are the minority. So that's another one would be like, if someone, they're selling like a 2010 vehicle, and he's like, the car is perfect. A 2010 vehicle is always going to have like a little stuff, For me, that's a red flag. When they always say, no, the car is perfect. And they insist that the car is perfect. And then we go test it. Hey, listen this. Oh, but that's a little thing. Another red flag. Because that means that from the beginning, they weren't honest on the whatever they were announcing.
Yeah. But you're saying that there are vehicles brought to El Salvador from the U.S. that were not wrecked?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I thought pretty much everything that was brought.
No, because sometimes people like you and me, we want to have a good vehicle. So we go through the process. There are a lot of people like this.
Okay.
We go through the process. By the way, it's also an option for you guys that you actually hire somebody that has like the license to bid on the auctions. You buy the car from the auction in the States with minimal to no damage.
So you could just buy
you can buy it
in a regular option.
You import it.
Okay.
The downside is you need to wait like about 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Between finding the right car, making the purchase, having it, come all the way down to El Salvador, the import process. So you're looking to 2 to 4 months.
And then the import taxes are pretty high though, right? When they bring them in like that, or?
Well, at the end, everybody's doing that. So you end up paying the same or a little bit less, but you need to wait.
So if you were to find a car that was, say, $30,000 in the U.S. and bring it down, what would they expect to pay for import taxes and hire somebody to do it and all that process?
Yeah. So that's an area that I do not know too much about the numbers, but from what I know, those 30 grand is going to be up to 50 grand. It changes, depends on the range.
Yeah.
So on that issue, you need somebody else, that's dedicated to importations.
And so people should expect to pay more for a vehicle here than they would pay for a similar vehicle in
Oh
the US.
yeah, I mean,
So
you're gonna-
what would you say as a percentage wise? How much percent more should they expect to pay here?
a vehicle over here, like in the average, same condition, year, whatever, it's gonna be about 40% higher the price than the same vehicle in the States.
And that's one that has not been wrecked,
Right? Fixed.
or what? But I
Yeah.
mean, in general, it seems like the ones that have been brought to be repaired sell for a little bit more than the ones in the US. But the ones that have never been in an accident, you'd pay like a 40% premium for.
Okay, this is the thing. There's a law. You're not allowed to import a vehicle that's more than 8 years old. So, for instance, back in 2018, I need a cheap car. And I bought a Camry for 2001 Camry for $1,000. I put $200 on it, and it worked perfect for me. No issues.
Yeah.
That vehicle over here is gonna cost you $3,000, $4,000. So that's not a 40%. That's
Yeah.
300%.
Yeah. On the
Yeah.
lower end. Yeah.
On the lower end. If you go
Yeah. You don't really find anything below 3,000 to 4,000 is very much the low end.
Yeah. 4 is gonna be the minimum.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get old
And
vehicle.
that's for like a Chevy, car, not a Toyota or
like a 90s or
Yeah.
early 2000s,
Yeah.
usually. That is in a fair condition, So, but let's talk about 2010 and newer, okay? To a 2010 and newer, yeah, you're expecting to pay like a 40% premium,
in general. The one that seems a little different in that, and I'm curious if you have an explanation, but the crew cab 4-wheel drive diesel pickup trucks here a lot of times are the same price or cheaper than you would find them in the US. And I don't know if that's because they sell models that they're not allowed to sell in the US or
car collectors, the hype. So for instance, let's take the car you saw me right now. That car, I can easily get paid $14,000 in the States. Over here, 11.
Okay.
Why? Because it's a collector's car.
Yeah.
So they are willing to pay more for that vehicle.
In the US.
In the US.
Okay.
Over here, the thing is, the difference between a first world country and a third world country is in the first world country, money is cheap. Services are expensive.
Yeah.
Over here, money is expensive. That means things are expensive and services are cheap. So we don't value as much to vehicles as they, because that's like it's a different mentality.
Yeah. You're not buying it just for use. You're buying it because it's your
That's
hobby.
a collector's car.
Yeah.
That's an enthusiast car. So that's why you can find, like, for example, a Toyota Hilux. In the States, it's gonna be like very expensive.
Yeah.
Almost the same price over here. That's why.
Yeah, I've noticed that. And it seems like certain vehicles too, definitely American vehicles don't hold their value here like Japanese. They love Toyota, they'll pay anything for, but if it's a Ford or a Chevy,
that's another myth. Well, not so much myth. Japanese vehicles have the reputation to be more reliable, more easy to work on, and usually the dealerships for the Japanese cars over here, they tend to have more inventory on parts. So all that comes into account, like what's more practical, to have a vehicle that's going to be quicker or faster and cheaper to repair, or have a vehicle, for example, your SRT. If something goes away, you're going to probably have to import the part.
Yeah.
You won't find it here. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why. And well, we can deny the Japanese traditionally they tend to be more reliable. That's like for the last 2 decades, that's the way it has been.
No, and it definitely, I mean, my experience here I've had a couple Toyotas and they seem to just hold up better to the conditions. So, But it is amazing the premium, specifically for Toyota, that people
Yeah.
are willing to pay. It's kind of
Toyota and Honda.
I had a beat up 2001 Corolla, and I mean, in the U.S., I would have had a hard time selling it for $1,000. I sold it to my mechanic for $3,500, and he was like thanking me for, this was several years ago, but I was like, man, I felt bad, but he's like, no, this is like my dream car. I was like, okay.
Well, that's the thing. I see you are a car enthusiast too. But I guess most of the viewers are not. They just need a vehicle to go to work and whatever. So if I'm trying to get advice to them, before going out and look for vehicles, you need to understand what you need, not what you want. Because there's a huge difference between the vehicle you want and the vehicle you need. So what I do to my friends is I ask them, okay, there are a couple of categories you need to go through, and you need to tell me what's more important for you. For example, availability of parts, easy to fix, comfort stuff, luxury. Vehicles are also like an extension of ourselves. So sometimes you might want a high-end vehicle because you work with several investors, and it's not the same going to a business meeting in an old Corolla than a newer BMW. You know what I mean? So all that you need to take into account. And also, for example, safety. So once you have all these categories, filter okay, for me, the most important thing is the space. I need a 3-row vehicle. For me, the most important thing is safety. I need a vehicle that has to be a 5-star rating. So once you have that, then you see the models and you classify the vehicles that are for sale, where they get into those prerequisites you already made. That's the actual way you need to do this. Not, I like that car, and then go see a good car for a good example of that one. No, this is the other way around. You need to see what you need, and then see which cars go into those needs. And once you figure out, okay, these 3 models satisfy my needs, then you go and look for those vehicles in the market. That's the way you should do it.
And I think that's why a lot of people wind up with the crew cab pickup trucks, because it's, especially if they're outside the city, it's, the roads can be a little rough. Sometimes you need 4-wheel drive. You want to haul stuff around. So how do you help people think through whether they should buy a new vehicle versus used? Obviously, budget and the capacity to pay for it is a huge thing. But just as far as the value, if you have the funds and you can afford to buy new or used, where do you think you get the better value in El Salvador?
The better value in El Salvador? Well, that goes in every single country in the world. The better value for your money is always going to be about a 2-ish, 3-ish old vehicle, because the first owner paid the depreciation.
Yeah.
That's always going to be the more money-wise investment. A 2 to 4 years old vehicle. But it's going to depend on how much money you have. Because you can have $10,000 and it won't be enough for, a nice 2020 SUV. It won't be enough. You're going to end up with a Kia Picanto 2020.
Yeah.
It's going to probably be too small for you. It's going to be too rough. It's going to be not safety at all. In the case you crash, won't be safe at all. So it goes down to the list I told you. You need to put the categories, see what you want, and that includes the budget. And then see what vehicles fit in those needs, including the budget.
Yeah.
So it's going to depend from person to person. I honestly tend to like more used vehicles because in my mind, I have spare money to just put on it and make it as good as new. But it has bite me back a couple of times. So, because I'm a car enthusiast, and sometimes I just want an older vehicle because I like that model.
Yeah.
So coming back to the average Joe, you want to go to a not so old vehicle. If you can afford a new vehicle and you just don't want to, you want to hassle free and don't worry about if they took care of it or not, then you should go to the last run of a specific model. I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
For instance, if right now in 2023, they release the new Cherokee, that's a bad purchase. Because the new vehicle has a lot of new stuff. Yeah, they haven't worked it out. Every single factory always have recalls. Every single factory. And they fix those bugs at the end of the run. So for instance, I will tell you, hey, if you want a Cherokee, buy the last year of the run, not the first year.
Yeah. It seems, from what I've seen, and I don't know, I think I've had 10 vehicles here in El Salvador so far. And it seems to me that on the pickup trucks, you're almost better buying new, that the used ones, they want almost the same price. But on the SUVs, you can save quite a bit by going used. I don't know if you found that at all, or?
The reason is, in these countries, there's like a lower tax for pickup trucks because they are work vehicles. So you pay less taxes. That's why they're cheaper.
Okay.
And since they are like multi-use, multiple uses for family and for work, they tend to retain value a lot. So that's why you see that. And yeah, probably are better worth just buying a new one.
Yeah. No, I've seen, for 30,000, you can get a 4-wheel drive diesel pickup truck that is brand new. But I've seen them used. Maybe they want a few years old. They want 27,000 for it still after a few years.
What happened? Also, there's another reason, because of COVID.
Yeah.
And because of some precious metals have been rare to find. In the last 2 years, right now, it's starting to stabilize. But in the last 2 years, the dealers didn't have inventory. So everybody that wanted to buy a new vehicle, they need to put the reserve, and they needed to wait 8, 10, 12, 14 months for the vehicle to come. So it comes down to, or you buy this one used, or you wait a year.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. But right now it's starting to catch up, So it's gonna change the prices next year.
Yeah, we bought a couple pickup trucks for the project, and we went with Mahindra because that was the only one that we could find in the country. So so far so good. We've talked to people that have had them, and they're built for India, so they're built for kind of rougher climate. They
have a Nissan engine, I think, right? That's a good thing. They use a Japanese engine.
I had heard the people that had them had good luck with them, and then I guess one of the government agencies had just purchased 40 pickup trucks, so they had, part of the deal was they would carry all the parts, because that was the other thing we were concerned about. Is
that's one of the issues with these new brands.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been like everywhere. The inventory's been kind of tough. But the other thing I noticed, and I don't know if you have any details on this, but some vehicles new, I think just because I'm from the U.S., my tendency is always to compare what I pay here versus what I would have to pay in the U.S.
You get less.
No, definitely. But for some of the vehicles, there's a bigger difference. And I was told that El Salvador has a free trade agreement with the U.S. So if it's considered an American manufactured car, the dealers pay a lot lower taxes on that. And so, because my wife wanted we bought her CRV several years back, and that was made in Mexico. So it was way more expensive than in the U.S. But the Pilot, which is one that was bigger, was made in the U.S., and it was not that much more than we'd pay in the U.S. And so I was telling my wife, well, let's get the Pilot. It's a better deal. But she wanted the smaller vehicle. But that's what the dealer told me. He's like, no, it's more expensive because we have to pay a lot more taxes to bring the CRV in than we have to pay on the Pilot. So I don't know if you found that in general here, or if you know anything more on the taxes.
It's definitely true.
Okay.
So, at the end, you need to go shopping, and just check out the prices. Don't believe the seller because he wants to convince you. They don't care if it's a good option for you or not. I mean, okay, let me not generalize.
Yeah. They're there to sell something.
Yeah, 90% of the sellers, they don't care if you're making a good purchase or not.
Yeah.
They want to make the sell. They want to make the deal. So don't believe them. Just take your notes, compare the vehicle with other vehicles, and do your due diligence, which is, if it's going to be used, take it to the right places to be checked, to be inspected. Don't believe the guy that's another red flag. New fluids. On the market brand announcement, they put new engine oil, new transmission oil. For me, that's a red flag because people that tend to put all that new fluid, new spark plug, new this, new that, and that, generally speaking, they are coyotes. Because they want to sell you like, hey, this car has all the new stuff.
It's been taken care of.
Yeah, and they put the cheaper oil. They put the $20 oil instead of the $50 oil, for instance. So if you're going to buy a used one, don't believe the seller. Just check it out, take notes, take the car to a professional body shop worker. He's going to tell you if that vehicle has been repaired or not. Most likely it's going to have been repaired, but he's going to tell you how bad probably was the crash before the repair. And you can also, if it's imported, you can also buy, I think it's $17 Carfax or $15, something like that.
Yeah.
It's cheap.
Yeah.
You can buy it and just check it. Actually, you can buy like for $20, you can check 3 vehicles, something like that. So you can go ahead and buy it. And at least you're going to know how bad the crash was.
Do you have any mechanics or body shops that you would recommend to viewers or listeners that you've had good luck with and what you want to recommend? I mean, if I don't want to put you on the spot, but if there's somebody you'd like to promote,
well,
people are always asking, who can I trust? Who's good? So
this is the thing. I stopped suggesting body shops or workshops like 2 years ago. Why? Because I know about vehicles. I know what they're doing. I know how it's supposed to be done. So for me, it's easy to tell them, hey, you're doing that wrong. Do it right. I don't want it that way. So for instance, I sent my brother-in-law to a shop, but he doesn't know what I know. So they treat him different.
yeah,
They treat me well because they know I know.
they know that you're. Yeah, that
They
makes
know
sense.
they can fool with me, but they can fool with somebody else. So I stopped, suggesting shops. However, there's this shop that is actually one of my racing sponsors, and they've been asking me like the last month a lot of advices, because what I can tell you is they're trying to do the things right. It's called H&M Premium Car Service. It's in Santa Tecla.
Okay.
So
And they just do repairs.
they do mechanical and body shop. They've invested a lot of money in the shop. They have all the right tools, all the right environment, and they can make the inspections if you need to buy a vehicle. And I would suggest you to go there and just tell them that, I send, because they know how I am and they know how it's supposed to be done.
Let them know Will sent you, and they better treat you right.
Yeah, but no, there are shops that at least I know they're trying to do the things how they're supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So you can try that one.
I think I've heard of that shop. I think somebody else they had like an Audi and they were placing a turbo or something in it. And
It's called H&M Premium Car Service.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And what would you recommend for people the one thing that's been kind of shocking to me, we've bought new vehicles at different times, was how much the agencia or the dealership charges for the services here.
Yeah.
I think, from my understanding, to not void the warranty, which it's illegal to do that in the US, but I think here you have to during the warranty period. But once the warranty period was expired, would you still recommend people take it to the agencia or take it to a private shop?
I own several the agencia vehicles, in the sense that I bought them new.
Uh-huh.
And let me tell you, in my experience and from what I've seen with all my friends, because I have a lot of friends, I'm gonna tell you two things and you make your own conclusions. First of all, I rarely seen somebody have something fixed because of warranty. Meaning, it's so weird to see warranty taking place and actually doing something for you. So that's one thing. And when they have, it's because I have a friend that is like me, that knows a lot about it and nags a lot. Like, hey, you did this. Or this car shouldn't be like this.
Yeah. So even the new cars, a lot of times they won't cover stuff under the warranty. Okay.
Well, generally speaking, they always like, hey, you know, this vehicle has this thing bad, replace it. It's so much. It's so weird that somebody tells you like, hey, you know, this car has this bad. Don't worry, we're gonna take care of it for you. I rarely heard that.
Okay.
And like I told you, in the few cases the agencia has done this warranty issue is because the owner has nagged a lot about it. Like a lot. That's my experience and my friend's experience. And the other thing I want to tell you is the same mechanics that work in the agencia, those are the same that are like, you know, jumping around independent shops and, you know, all the place. They end up opening their own shop, or they go to another shop and then they jump to this shop. Sadly, this is because I think in this country they don't pay mechanics what they should be, you know, should get. So that's why.
So
I'm trying to say,
your opinion is it's not worth the money to take it to the agencia.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, right now, we took I won't say brand, we took a vehicle of my wife. Well, actually from my mother-in-law, my wife's mom, right? To the agencia to fix something, and it was a total mess. The car is from the agencia, and it was supposed to be on warranty. The fix was a total mess. Last week, a friend took a car to repair to the agencia, to the body shop. It was a total mess.
A mess in that they didn't do the repair right, or they gouged them on the price, or
they charge way more than the market price, and they didn't do it right. So my advice would be, at the end of the day, go to a mechanic you really trust.
Yeah.
Because the agencia, in my opinion, they won't really cover you because of a warranty, you know.
That's good to know.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But, you know, everybody's free to do whatever they want.
So let's get into a little bit more fun stuff. So I think we have some videos. You do racing here in El Salvador.
I do track racing and drifting.
Okay. Now, is that like a hobby? Is that your profession?
No, that's
or
my
what?
hobby.
Okay.
That's how I started into the car industry.
Okay.
Because I wanted this so much, and I couldn't find, when I was like 21 years old, I couldn't find a shop to actually fix my BMW. That was my first vehicle. So I was like, okay, I'd rather just, you know, do it myself.
And this is the Obsessed Motors. That's
my race fan page.
okay.
Yeah.
So people can come out to the track here and watch you race. Do they?
Yeah.
How often do you guys race, or how does that?
Usually every 2 months we're racing.
Okay.
And also if somebody wants to race, we have like this Sunday racing where we give like a crash course, and you can come and compete with us.
A crash course?
In a crash course, you can only practice, you know.
Probably not the good term for that.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Do you happen to know the guys from the Bitcoin racing team from England? I know they were on the track there for a while when they were visiting.
Yeah. I did not meet them like personally.
Okay.
I was there when they arrived, and they actually drive friend of my vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were borrowing a vehicle while they were here.
Yeah, they were borrowing.
Okay.
Actually, we raced. I think we made a race together.
Okay.
But we were in like different categories.
So is there like is racing big in El Salvador, or what is it?
Yeah, the car culture over here is like really big.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Trust me. It's more about, quarter mile and that stuff, but we also have a lot of track racing. We have karting,
Okay.
go-karts, and since last year, drifting.
Okay. So does your car have a name, or you have a team, or I don't know how it even works. So that's not my world at all. So if people want to follow you, they just follow the Obsessed Motors?
Yeah, just Obsessed Motors.
Okay.
If you want to follow me for, race or performance-related stuff, if you want to follow me for, everyday driver, everyday car tips, I have another one that's called Mi Carrito y Yo.
Okay. And is that one in Spanish or in English, or both?
Both are in Spanish.
Okay. Perfect. And so we didn't even get into this earlier. So what do you do in El Salvador then? What's your occupation? Or are you
trade marketing?
Trade
Nothing
marketing.
to do with
Okay.
vehicles. Yeah.
Trade marketing, like.
So to sum it up, is we do marketing actions that create sales in the moment. Basically, I do like brand projects for multinational companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't usually focus on it, but this is tangentially a Bitcoin focused show. So I'm just curious. We haven't even talked about this. So curious is your honest take on Bitcoin and El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin, and if you've had any interaction, or I know you said you're a finance major. So
Yeah. So my honest say, in the Bitcoin by itself, or about El Salvador adopting Bitcoin?
both.
In the Bitcoin by itself, I haven't researched enough, but as my opinion is, it's like a gamble. And it's a gamble I haven't been interested in getting into it, And about El Salvador adopting the Bitcoin, I think that was a good move. Obviously, it was a political move, but it was a good move because that brought El Salvador, to the world to get noticed.
Yeah.
And definitely I've seen more foreign investment in the country. So I think that was a good move.
Have you seen, I'm curious within the car industry, if you've seen it's been one of I do pretty much everything in Bitcoin, but vehicles has been one of the harder things. And so we were actually able to buy the Mahindra pickup trucks that we bought for the project. We were able to pay for those in Bitcoin.
Because you bought them new.
Because we bought them new.
If you were to buy in used, it would be way more difficult.
Yeah. I've seen some other that are being sold by people in the Bitcoin space. They prefer to be paid in Bitcoin. But I know for myself, dealing with the banking system here is horrific. When I try to bring money in to buy property or a vehicle or something, it's always gets hung up and becomes a big headache. So have you seen any more people using, I know I have, but it could just because I'm in the Bitcoin space. And so those are the people I hang out with. But I don't know if you've seen any in the car industry of people using Bitcoin to make bigger transactions like vehicles.
Very few. In the vehicles, in the used car market vehicles, that's going to be like very few, very rare people that are going to be willing to do that transaction with Bitcoin. They exist.
Yeah.
They're just few. It's more usual nowadays in the real estate.
Yeah.
Right
You
now
see it a
it's-
lot more.
yeah,
You see it a lot in the real estate, but that's why I'm curious as to why you see a lot in the real estate, but you don't see it as much in the vehicles. So
Because in the real estate, I mean, at the end of the day, real estate is never going to be a 5-hour process. It's always going to be a several weeks process. So when you're trying to sell a car, going through the hassle of Bitcoin can make it, a couple of days process if you don't have the right tools to receive the Bitcoin money.
Yeah, if you don't have the accounts and the...
But on the other hand, for real estate, there's so much stuff involved that's going on besides the payment
Yeah.
that you can figure that out. I mean, those are huge commissions. It's not like you can say like, okay, I'm selling this house for 200K and you're interested. No, next. I mean, it's 200K, you know. So that's why it's easier to make transactions with Bitcoins for real estate and vehicles.
I think part of that probably is just people understanding, because when we bought the vehicles from the Mahindra dealership, it was usually when I bought in the past, it's taken a couple weeks for my wire to clear and all of that. With Bitcoin, we literally sat there. It
right
confirmed
away.
in 15 minutes. They're like, oh, that's all we need? And I was like, yeah. And so it was, from my perspective, it went so much easier. But I can understand if people aren't,
but
if they don't understand that, and if they've never done it before, then...
But because that's a new car.
Yeah.
By law, all dealerships they have to accept Bitcoins. So if you want to buy a new car, Bitcoin, no problem. 15 minutes, you're done. If you want to buy a used car, you need to make sure that the seller, has the means or whatever, the wallet.
Yeah.
Because many people over here, local people, still don't use Bitcoin. So that's why it's a little bit more harder for the used car market. But again, they exist. It's just there are fewer.
Yeah, finding them. And what do you think about overall the direction El Salvador is going? Like, are you feeling positive about what's happening in El Salvador with the economy, with everything else? Are you concerned? Are you like glad you're living here right now? What's your just perception of the country in general?
Well, I mean, every single president has good stuff and bad stuff.
Well, not just talking about the president, just talking about in general in the country right now. Yeah,
I know, but he leads the country.
Yeah.
And 90% of the things that are happening is because, he make it that way. So my point is, coming from Honduras, I can tell you, 99% of people in Honduras wish they could have Nayib as president in Honduras. And since I work with several multinational companies, I've seen the economical progress in this country in the last 5 years.
It's been breathtaking. I mean, it's
before I got married, 2017, sorry. She's gonna get mad. Before I got married, he was running for president. And if I go back to 2017 and right now, 2023, Salvador is a way different country. And for the good, not for the bad.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think Bitcoin was a good move. It's definitely made this area grow a lot. Not only this area, in general. Because in real estate, because I'm also in real estate, there are a lot of people currently buying because of Bitcoin. And that improves the economy.
Yeah. Well, there's been a huge influx of expats from around the world.
Yeah.
Where before you'd say El Salvador, they're like, well, I'm scared. I would never go there. Now I'm getting calls from people like, hey, I want to come see what's going on there. So it's been neat to see just the way that the whole country's image has been transformed.
Let me give you an example. When I married my wife, I was in Honduras. So we had the choice to either stay in Honduras or El Salvador. And also we had a third choice, which was to go to Canada. However, that one needed a couple of months. When I started to see the changes in El Salvador, I was like, running away from the option of going to Canada because I started liking more the country. And definitely, I'm glad I didn't choose to stay in Honduras. So, and I guess it's the same for many people.
Yeah.
Not only for me.
Yeah, Honduras seems like it's still struggling along with the same issues. Back. Yeah.
I mean, too much corruption. It's going back, sadly.
Yeah. So you think for the kind of more long term, you see El Salvador as home for you guys and the place to be?
Well, 50-50.
50-50.
It's either El Salvador or a first world country. But definitely not, another Latin American country. No, El Salvador.
Do we miss anything, you think, that we need to talk about or cover? Or do you have any other things you want to promote or talk about?
No. But basically, I really like to help people out because all my knowledge is mostly because my failures, So I had a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of, bad adventures, bad decisions. And I really want people, to make a good decision with their vehicles. And I feel I can share knowledge. So to sum it up, you need to know that most of the vehicles are not a good option. So
but they can make them look really good. That's what I always tell people. You'll see it and it looks perfect. But
take your time.
Yeah.
If your guts tell you, hey, this vehicle seems a good option, wait a minute. Go to the paint shop. Have them check it out. Pay the Carfax. Go to the mechanical shop. Have them check it out and see what comes out. Probably gonna, have a lot of surprises. Most likely. But there are good sellers and there are good vehicles. You can still find them. Just be patient.
Yeah.
Also, I have a say, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap BMW. But that applies to almost any vehicle. There's nothing more expensive than a really cheap car. Because if it is cheap, it's for something.
Yeah.
Not for good. It's for something.
That's good advice. Well, I appreciate you making the drive down to the beach and spending this time, and make sure. So it's Mi Carrito is the website that you have?
Yeah, Opsis Motors and Mi Carrito y yo.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks for giving everybody a heads up, and hopefully we'll save some people some headaches and some expensive disasters here. They'll know what to look for.
Hey, everybody, you can find me on expats. I'm part of the expat community.
On Facebook.
Yeah. On the Facebook group.
Yeah.
So if you need help and you decided about a vehicle, I'm more than happy to help you out.
Perfect. Well, thank you.
Just with advices,
That's it. Well, thanks we appreciate it all, and we'll hope to get out and see you racing out there.
Cool. You can learn too.
All right. I'm. Trust me, I am very tempted.
You can make a new Bitcoin racing team.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Okay.